Okay, great. So today I will speak briefly about the commercialization of AI. I know we have a lot of speakers that, are experts in AI but I think we must not forget about commercialization because at the end we would like to achieve economic growth. And well, briefly, if you want to achieve AI and economic development, you need to think about these three things. The first one is technology. So which technology are we using? In terms of AI, it is going to be like large language models or deep learning. The second thing is the most important part, which is the commercialization and the business models that serves around. And the third one is really the resource of scale. Now, let me comment briefly on each of them. Technology, I mentioned some large language models and deep learning. People who develop technologies are going to really, change the world. But basically, on the technology itself does not have much monetary value. If the people who have monetary value is the commercialization part. ChatGPT has a lot of huge amount of market cap, but they're based on they didn't really develop the foundation of large language models. That was developed by some scholars, but do they earn monetary value? They do, but it's not as the scale of, for example, the commercialization around like ChatGPT or some other businesses. So my point here is we need to build an ecosystem of really commercializing these technologies in order to really foster GDP growth, not only for Japan, but for the world. And why is this? This is basically the correlation between GDP growth. So we made an investigation, and there's a lot of research around this. The strongest correlation between GDP growth is not population. A lot of people think it's population. The Japanese government thinks population is so important. It's not population. It's the number of innovation. And what is innovation? It's the number of commercialization, especially destructive commercialization. What does that mean? It means as a result of commercializing technology, you replace existing business models. And really, GDP growth is determined by this. How much commercialization, destructive commercialization can you make in one country? Let's think about an example of Israel. Israel had a very high GDP growth pre-war, 6-7% per capita. But if you look at the population, it wasn't really increasing that much. If you compare it with, for example, countries like Africa, Africa has a huge population growth. But if you look at the GDP growth, it depends on the country, but it's about 2 to 3%. It's very modest compared to countries like Israel. So if you look at this, you'll find that really population will be a bonus. It's not the determined factor. The determined factor is the number of commercialization. So let's see whether we can commercialize this new opportunity of AI. Now, let's look at the innovation indicators of Japan. If you look at the input here, right here, it says number 5. Japan has the world 5th largest R&D investments. This is the sum of governments and companies. It's pretty good. The results of the output 1, right here in the middle, actually is outstanding. We have the 3rd largest number of patents in the world. And when it comes to patent income, it says number 3, but actually, in some statistics, it's world number 1. We're even higher than the United States and China and when it comes to patent income. But as I explained before, really the technology and the patent itself does not really bring monetary value. The point that brings monetary value is this point, the red part, the commercialization part. If you look at the commercialization part, you would see that Japan is no longer the G20. It's probably, if you average this out, it's probably going to be G60. So the point is, if we want economic growth, if we want to translate AI technology, or not even AI technology, but any technology to GDP growth, you need commercialization. So this is the most important part that I wanted to talk today. Yes, technology is important. Yes, government 24/7 is important, but if you can't build a business model that is scalable and that can compete with the government, other countries, you are not going to achieve economic growth. So how you should do this? My point is really you should learn from the other countries' success business models, not only the technology but the business models. And this is not relatively a new phenomenon. For example, after World War II, Japan really imported the idea of consumer electronics and automobile from the Western countries. They didn't really invent automobile or consumer electronics. But they did a research allocation. They had the right model at that time, and then some companies, like great companies like Hitachi and Toyota, emerged. This is same for China. China in the past 15 years, the growth has been remarkable. A lot of people thought that China wasn't really growing that much, but what they did is they commercialized it. They learned from the business models from around the world. They adapted fastly. They provided a lot of compensation to great talent, and they fastly scaled it up. And this is the same for actually any country. Now, but if you look at Japan in the past 20 years, a lot of the companies have been focused internally rather than learning the business model outside. So this is the first point that I want to make. We need to learn quickly from new business models around the world. If copying it is another word, but learn from it, implement in your own country, and try to combine with your own existing technology in your domestic market in a very, very fast speed. This is what we need in the era of AI. And there's one idea that I would like to introduce, which is called the company creation model. This is a relatively new kind of phenomena. It's a company creation model. Basically, a typical way of creating a venture is, there's an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur thinks about like a problem that's around himself and that he's been thinking through, and kind of start from there and get some venture capital investments. A company creation model it's working from the other way around. You look at the market, you look at the technology, and you look at the market size and the large of the problem, the scale of the problem. You identify the problem first. That's the first phase. The second phase is you identify the scalable and the profitable business models that are already existing in other countries. And the third part is you make you identify a gap. For example, there's a business model in the US, there's not in China or not in Japan. You identify a gap, and then you partner with the government or the large corporations, and you build a scalable and profitable business model in a very short time horizon. There's a couple of examples. For example, Moderna. Moderna in the United States was built by this company creation model. It wasn't built by just one founder. It was built by a company creation model fund called Flagship Pioneering. Another example is a fund in Vargas in Switzerland. Vargas created 5 companies in 5 years. All 5 is a unicorn company. So this is a very new phenomenon called the company creation model approach. If you look at Japan, sadly, as the minister mentioned, we do have some young people that are great entrepreneurs trying to thrive for great entrepreneurs. But if you look at the absolute number, the supply is limited. So I thought really you can, the Japanese government and some business leaders, it's one idea to really implement this company creation model. Okay, so let me stop there. Thank you so much. And we will have a 5-minute break. No, we're not going to have a break. We will go on to the discussion. So thank you so much.